Good morning, students. Today let's have a look at a poem from 11th standard English Yuvak Bharati course book. Poem number 2.1 is Cherry Tree. This poem is written by the poet Ruskin Bond. So before we begin, let's know something about the poet Ruskin Bond. The poet is born in Kasauli, Himachal Pradesh in 1934. He has written hundreds of short stories, essays, novellas, and more than 30 books for children. His first novel, The Room on the Roof, which is written when he was just 17 years old. So he has received the John Llewellyn Rhys Memorial Prize in 1957. He has also published 2 volumes of autobiography, Scenes from a Writer's Life and The Lamp is Lit, a collection of essays and episodes from his journal. Again in 1992, he received the Sahitya Akademi Award for English Writing in India. He was awarded the Padma Shri in 1999. Ruskin Bond lives with his adopted family in Mussoorie, Uttarakhand. So we come to know here is the poet is Indian English writer. The present poem, Cherry Tree, it's about the poet's ecstasy, means the poet's joy, his happiness over a small tree which he has planted. In this poem, the poet expresses his wonder at the ways of nature and how the cherry blossoms are fragile and quick to fall. The tree gives him immense joy as he can see the stars and the blue sky through dappled green leaves. Cherry Tree is a poem about the ecstasy of the poet over a cherry plant which he has planted 8 years ago. In this poem, the poet expresses his wonder at the ways of nature and how it takes care of itself to survive against all odds. This is a nature poem as it talks about various elements of nature. The tone of this poem is of optimism because the poet focuses on the growing aspect of nature and how the cherry plant struggles to survive. At the same time, this is a realistic poem because it describes the everyday struggles of a small plant to grow into a fully grown blooming tree. So let's read and try to understand this poem. Cherry Tree. 8 years have passed since I placed my cherry seed in the grass. Must have a tree of my own, I said, and watered it once and went to bed and forgot. But cherries have a way of growing, though no one is caring very much or knowing. And suddenly that summer, near the end of May, I found a tree had come to stay. The poet here says that it has been 8 years since he planted a cherry seed in the grass. He wanted to have a tree of his own. So he watered it once and forgot about it and went to bed. The poet says that cherries can grow even when they are not being taken care of. They can grow naturally without having to water every day. And it was the season of summer. So it was near the end of May. The poet noticed that a tree was growing from the place where he planted the seed. And that's why he has said that I found a tree had come to stay. It was very small, 5 months child, lost in the tall grass, running wild. Goats ate the leaves. The grass cutter sky split it apart, and a monsoon blight shriveled the slender stem. Even so, Next spring I watched 3 new shoots grow. The young tree struggle, upward thrust, its arms in a fresh, fierce lust for light and air and sun. The tree was very small. Here the poet describes the cherry plant. He says that it was very small, and he compares the plant to a 5 months child. So the tree was so small that it wasn't even visible amongst the long grass. And again, goats came and ate the leaves of the plant. Grass cutter had split the plant apart, and even the monsoon damaged the plant. So the thin stem of the plant dried, and even then, by the spring, the tree managed to survive. And the poet saw that 3 new shoots have grown. So the young tree was struggling to grow upward. However, its branches managed to grow fiercely upwards to get light, air, and sun. So through these lines, we can understand the struggle of a young tree, the struggle of a small plant to grow. So even though there were challenges, there were difficulties in its way, like goats ate the leaves, the grass cutter, scythe, split it apart, and even due to monsoon, the small plant got damaged. Still, the tree had an instinct to survive and grow, and that's why it has spread its arms now for light and air and sun. I could only wait as one who watched, wondering, while time and the rain made a miracle from green growing pain. I went away next year, spent a season in Kashmir, came back thinner, rather poor, but richer by a cherry tree at my door. Here the poet waited and watched. He was watching the tree grow while the time passed, and it rained, and how the tree survived even in pain. Next year, the poet goes to Kashmir to spend a season, and when he came back, he became thinner and rather poor. But he says that, on the other hand, the tree grew richer at the door. It had grown now into a 6 feet fully grown tree. The poet couldn't believe his eyes that it was the same tree that he planted in which dark cherries had grown. So, in other words, we can say that the poet could only wait and watch when time and the rain made a miracle. It means even though the small plant was in pain, it was able to grow into a fully grown tree. And when the poet spent his season in Kashmir, his health was deteriorated, he became poor and even thinner. But still he felt that he is richer. Why? Because at his door the cherry tree has now grown into 6 feet high tree. 6 feet high, my own dark cherry, and I could scarcely believe it a berry. Ripen and jewel in the sun, hung from a branch just one. And next year there were blossoms small, pink, fragile, quick to fall. At the merest breath, the sleepiest breeze. So we find that the tree has now become mature. The fruits are also shining like pieces of jewelry in the sun. And these fruits are hanging from one of the branches of the cherry tree. So by the next year again the flowers blossomed, which were pink in color. The flowers were very fragile and they were falling very quickly even in the slightest movement of the breeze. So the flowers were very delicate, they were pink in color and now the tree is blossoming with flowers and at the same time with ripened fruits called berry. I lay on the grass at ease, looking up through leaves at the blue blind sky, at the finches as they flew and fleeted through the dappled green, while bees in an ecstasy drank of nectar from each bloom, and the sun sank swiftly and the stars turned in the sky, and moon moths and singing crickets, and I, yes, I praised night and stars and tree, that small the cherry grown by me. And here in the final stanza, the poet says that he likes to lie on the grass. He likes to relax and describes nature in full swing. That the sky, finches, bees, crickets, and the blooming cherry tree. The poet says that the bees, which are hovering around the cherry tree, they like to drink the nectar from every flower until the sunset. The stars were also visible in the sky, and now the poet could hear the moon moths and the crickets are singing. So the poet praises the night and the stars and the tree that he had planted, and it was grown by him. So finally the poet feels very happy, and this is how the final stanza gives the poet's satisfaction, the poet's joy when he looks at the fully grown tree. He likes to lie on the grass and he likes to enjoy this beauty of this nature. He likes to see this blue blind sky through dappled green leaves. Various types of insects and birds start coming around the tree for nectar, and at the same time the poet is able to enjoy the various sounds of all the insects like moon moths and singing crickets. And he is very proud of the cherry tree which he has planted, and that is why in the final lines he says that I praise night and stars and tree, that small the cherry grown by me. So these final lines give us a feeling that the poet has experienced when he has planted the small seed and it has now grown into a fully grown tree. Through this poem, Cherry Tree, the poet has got a very important message for us, that the cherry tree mentioned here has got an adapting nature, it has a resilience, and it has strong determination to grow against all difficulties. So poet wants to highlight that we human beings, we can also overcome all the obstacles which we face in our life, and we can become strong and tough like this cherry tree. So students, if you have any questions regarding this poem, feel free to comment in the comment box below. Thank you so much for watching, and if you want to get notified about the next video, don't forget to subscribe my channel